everyone. Welcome back to Baggage Claim, Unpack Your Bags with Dr. Danita. Thank you so much for tuning in. We are in season 5. I can't believe it's been a whole year since I've gone live with Baggage Claim. The end of 2021 nearly sucked the life out of me. So I took 2022 as my year of healing. And I took what I considered an amazing journey of me. I focused on my wellness, my mind, my body, my spirit. I took time to just reflect on some of my lived experiences. I processed life where I was and thought about my future, discovered some things about me that I liked, some things that I didn't like, some things that I should have been celebrating. I took some time to even grieve in ways that I hadn't done in the past. Loved on my family and even got some travel in. So as you can see, I have a whole lot to share and I'm back to tell the story. And I do hope that you will find these episodes to be helpful for wherever you may be in your season of life. As always, there will be mental health tips, there'll be education, and I hope that it will be beneficial for you as you join us on each episode. So, are you ready to take this journey with me? If so, let's go live. Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Baggage Claim, Unpack Your Bags with Dr. Danita. I'm so glad you joined us on tonight, and if you would, just take a minute to like and share. If you are one of the Baggage Claim fans, give us a thumbs up, let us know. And if you're new, let us know where you're viewing from. We're excited that you joined us on tonight. If you missed any of the previous seasons, we're in season 5. And if you missed any of the previous seasons, go ahead and hop over to my YouTube channel and go ahead and subscribe so that you can get all of the notifications. And then at your leisure, you can watch some of the previous episodes. So, this week, as you heard on the intro video, that we are sharing my journey of me. And I'm excited about this because I have really been working on my healing, mind, body, and spirit. I'm still working on it. It's never a done deal. But I have grown so much over this past year. And I shared last week that the human experience is common, and so things that I have experienced, I know that many others have. I get very encouraged when I hear people's stories about things that I have been going through, and they share how they got through it and give tips. And so that's what we're doing. That's what we're here for. And you may wonder, why is she sharing a journey of her and she has guests on? And so one reason is because, well, this guest right here has been like really journeying with me. We spend a lot of time together, and she has had some similar experiences that I've had, but she's also been watching me and my journey and seeing my growth. And then this one here, so this is Q, and this is Kierra, and Kierra as well has grown. We'll share some of our connection and how we have grown tremendously. But then also, I just want somebody to corroborate my story. I don't want to tell y'all that I'm good and nobody else can say that they saw it or that they see it or that they knew where I was and now where I am. So I have some witnesses tonight. And so tonight's episode is Codependent No More. That's the title. And, sometimes you think, well, you're a whole mental health professional. Why would you be dealing with codependency? Why would that be something that you needed to heal from? Well, when I went into therapy, I realized that there's a whole lot of things that you can help people. You can, be helpers of people. But until you hit walls, or until you come to a specific season, or until somebody highlights it for you, you can be a professional and not necessarily know that, because it was your norm, not necessarily know that it was something that you needed to, to really address. So, codependency is something that all three of us, and we're all three of us are mental health professionals, and we all found ourselves, you in counseling, me in counseling. If you go to a therapist that doesn't go to counseling, you should leave that therapist. Or not necessarily that, obviously every therapist isn't going to tell you that they're in counseling, but if you find out that your therapist doesn't feel like they need counseling, you should probably find another counselor. Yeah,
definitely.
So, when we think about codependency, a lot of people automatically go to the thoughts of addictions and, dealing with, intimate partner, and one partner is an addict, and the other one constantly comes alongside and covers up and holds and bears up, and, just always making life happen for that one who is irresponsible. But in our healing journey, we came across a lot more in terms of definitions and how extensive the definition, the traits, the characteristics of codependency is. So when you all think about codependency, what comes to your mind?
Well, when I think about codependency, so prior to going to counseling, my understanding and just my perspective was really just from being a child of a drug addicted parent, and what that looked like, and the overcompensation for areas in my life and my family's life, to compensate for that addicted parent. But I found that it was so much more that evolved from that into my own life. And it wasn't until I went to counseling that I found out that, some of my behaviors were rooted in codependency. Just the need to help others. That rescue was really, really eye-opening for me. Didn't realize how much I was helping people, genuinely helping people, but didn't realize that it was connected to that codependency, right. That codependent behavior. And so for me, that was big. That rescuer, that I gotta help. I have to make sure everybody feels safe. Make sure everybody is good. Make sure that if they're hurting, to make sure that I'm a part of helping them heal and all those things. So for me, that was eye-opening, because I was just doing it just because that was who I was, not realizing that it was rooted in codependency. So
yeah, and you could easily slip into that, especially if you are if you have more knowledge of healthy living, healthy behaviors, or whatever, and sometimes you're surrounded by people who may not be as healthy. You feel like you owe it to them.
Absolutely, to help them.
Yes.
To help them, but in a healthy way. But
you feel like you do it in a healthy way. But after a while, it just starts to slide down the slippery slope.
Absolutely.
What's funny? Y'all are funny. Well,
We're back.
we're back. Thank you so much. I hope we're back.
We're back.
We're back. Okay.
They can hear you.
They can hear me.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much for bearing with us with our technical difficulties. Just please give us a thumbs up and let us know that you can hear us. I'm just making sure. I don't even know where we left off. We were getting good, and I know we were only in the first 5 minutes, but it was getting good. And we were talking about our definitions of codependence, and I don't think you shared. Yeah, and is this going to pick up, or are we starting over again?
I don't know, but we're just gonna flow.
We're just going to flow with it.
Okay, so what I can add to the codependent definition is that a lot of times not a lot of times, most of the times, in codependent relationships, one person's identity is rooted in the other person. So however the other person is feeling, whatever they're doing, however they're behaving, affects the one who is doing the enabling and people pleasing and whatever else.
Yeah. I wrote down a couple of characteristics of codependence, and well, first of all, the definition that Melody Beattie uses in Codependent No More. Everyone should read this book, Codependent No More. But she says it's mental and emotional problem that affects how people interact and connect with others in interpersonal relationships. And so usually people with who are codependent, they suffer with well, not suffer, but they have a lack of awareness of their boundaries, where they end, where the other person begins, and often allow other people to control their lives, even though they think they're being the one controlling. It's the I can't be happy unless you're happy kind of relationship, or if you change, then I'll be okay. And I like this. Codependents are frustrated with the relentless demands from people, yet they lay awake at night with concern for the people's needs.
Not really sure what they need.
Right. Wow. And so much time is spent fixing other people and controlling other people and holding up and bearing other people's stuff that you don't get a chance to think about, what you need. And that's where I was. Yeah. And I didn't label it until I read her book. Right. And you know what's funny? Like I use this book for other people.
Right.
I use the book for other people, but but until I was sitting as the counselee, I was like, wow, that is really me. But you can get so accustomed to your norm that you literally need someone else to point it out.
Absolutely.
To you.
Hence why everybody needs a therapist.
Mm-hmm. And we can get along in life.
Absolutely.
But it doesn't mean that we're at our best. And after a while, you will get so worn out. Even though you're getting along in life for years and years and years, it comes to a point where you hit that wall and it's like, well, what am I doing? What happened?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So one of the things that people, always want to know, well, where does it come from? And they say that 90% of the people are at some level on the continuum from 0 to 100. 90% of the people have codependency issues. Mm-hmm. So where does that come from? Where is it rooted? How do people become codependent?
You're asking.
Yeah, I can share, but if you want to. Yeah, you want me to start? Mm-hmm. So, a lot of what we deal with comes from childhood.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Our environmental factors play a significant role.
Mm-hmm. How our parents interacted, we observe. We take a lot of our behaviors from what we experience, our lived experience in childhood. It could have come from attachment issues where we didn't have the emotional attachment that we needed. It could have come from trauma that was experienced where you were out of control, and now anything and everything you do as an adult, you're going to control it and hold on so that you can feel safe
Right.
with with what happens in in your within your space. And so a lot of it will come from childhood experiences. And then go ahead.
What do you think about, this is an off the fly question,
She knows I'm not an off the fly kind of person, and now she's putting me on the spot.
I'm thinking about origin and things. What do you think about how codependence plays a role in African American culture? Because I feel like we have a lot of, especially familial behaviors that are very cultural, but maybe can cross the line of codependence. I'll give you an example, like something like how we say, like no matter what, everybody's family. Like if somebody needs me, I'm gonna come. If somebody, like how we really don't leave anyone behind, no matter what they're doing. They could be doing anything,
and you could be dragging them, kicking and screaming, and they don't even want to come, but because they're family, you coming.
Yeah.
And
I think I think that stems from the racial traumas that we experience, that post-traumatic slave syndrome
behaviors.
Absolutely,
because we had to.
Right?
We didn't have a choice but to bear.
Absolutely. And it just continued on.
Yeah.
And it just continued on and just got passed down because who had the resources to find someone to say that that's unhealthy?
Yeah.
Right.
So, and again, a lot of those behaviors and those traits and those belief systems, it stemmed from our ancestors, them, doing whatever they needed to do to help each other survive.
Yeah.
It really stemmed from a survival perspective.
And because everything that we see, generally speaking, it's negative about our culture.
Absolutely.
So you want your culture, you want your people, you want them to thrive, you want them to succeed.
Absolutely.
So,
more than them.
Yeah, so you have the parents who are filling out job applications for,
Helicopter
that's not
parents.
Codependency, what is it? Filling out job applications for grown kids.
Right.
And
holding hands when the hand needs to be let go.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point.
Thank you.
Gianna said so too.
Thanks, Gianna.
Hey, honey. Hey, Dr. Angel. Thanks for joining, Sharita. And my son, Kevin, one of my fans. Give me some thumbs up, Kevin. Let me know you're one of the fans. So yeah, that actually was a good point. And not only African Americans, but women.
Especially women.
Women can
carry a great burden.
Yeah.
Yes. Have carried a great burden down through the years from slavery on. Black women have been responsible for nurturing the master's children while breastfeeding their own children. And so that whole role, we can go, that's a whole nother segment on the strong Black woman.
Yes.
Okay, we're not even going to go there. We touched upon it,
but we are strong Black women, and not bragging necessarily about it, but we are.
But we are, by default.
Right, by default.
By default. Because I definitely wouldn't have signed up for it because of the burden that comes along with it.
Yeah.
Right.
We often, minimize our needs and wants for the betterment of those around us. So.
Yeah. And as the next generation, I will not be signing up for it voluntarily.
No. And you know what?
In some instances, it's either you or your family. So I mean, that's what it's been. Not to say that I just leave my family out there, but I won't be signing up for it voluntarily.
But that's a healthy That's a healthy perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not going to, usually things that are healthy aren't always welcome.
Yeah.
Right? So, I sitting on a seat where I'm more aware of the world around me and how it impacts me, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
I think it's important that as you continue to navigate life, that with those boundaries, it is going to be healthy, and you'll be changing yet another generation when you begin to reproduce.
Yeah. Dr. Angel asked the question, how do we shift from codependent tendencies, which as we go along, we're going to, get more into that and talk more about it. I wanted to highlight, because a lot of people think they're not codependent.
Yeah.
But I wanted to highlight in this book, Codependent No More. Mm-hmm. This is chapter 7, Set Yourself Free. Let go and let God. Let go and let God is one of the 12-step program slogans. But this list, if you don't find yourself somewhere on this list, I say the devil is a lie. You need to tell the truth
and shame the devil.
So it says, people say codependents are controllers. We nag, lecture, scream, holler, cry, beg, bribe, coerce, hoover over, protect, accuse, chase after, run away from, try to talk into, try to talk out of, attempt to induce guilt in, seduce, entrap, check on, demonstrate how much we've been hurt people in return so they'll know how it feels, threaten to hurt ourselves, whip power plays on, deliver ultimatums to, do things for, refuse to do things for, stomp out on, get even with, whine, vent, act helpless, suffer in loud silence, try to please, lie, do sneaky little things, do sneaky big things, clutch at our hearts and threaten to die, grab our heads and threaten to go crazy, beat our chests and threaten to kill, enlist the aid of supporters, gauge our words carefully, sleep with, refuse to sleep with, have children with, bargain with, drag to counseling, drag out of counseling, talk mean about, talk mean to, insult, condemn, pray for miracles, pay for miracles, go to places we don't want to go, stand by, supervise, dictate, command, complain, write letters about, write letters to, stay home and wait for, go out and look for, call all over looking for, drive down dark alleys at night hoping to see, chase down dark alleys at night hoping to catch, run down dark alleys at night to get away from, bring home, keep home, lock out, move away from, move in with, scold, impress upon.
It's expansive.
It's expansive. And then it ends with, we control in the name of love. We do it because we're only trying to help. We do it because we know what's best and how things should go and how people should behave. That's me. Mm-hmm. I know what's best.
Yeah, always.
We do it because we're right and they're wrong. We control because we're afraid not to do it. We do it because we don't know what else to do. We do it to stop the pain. We control because we think we have to. We control because we don't think. We control because controlling is all we can think about. That chapter was worth for me.
Yeah.
It was like, if I didn't read anything else in the whole book, that chapter was worth picking the book up. Mm-hmm. The list is endless.
It is. Mm-hmm. Quite overwhelming.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Because as women, as mothers, as wives, we do these things and
you don't want your child to go through, or you don't want them to experience what you experience.
And so you find yourself right in this list. And if we can be transparent and honest with ourselves, I'm sure everyone on the live is right there with us and can find themselves in this list.
And if we get a little more transparent, for those of you who don't know, that Kierra is my baby girl.
But I'm 26.
and that's how codependency really is. Because I still see her as my baby girl. And so what do you do with babies?
You nurture them. You take
care of them. Oh, you can't do it, I'll do it. Oh, you don't know how, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And we had that for a while.
25 and a half years.
Wait, a half year? Give her some credit. She's been in counseling for a year now.
Yeah. I think.
Give me some credit.
No, absolutely.
Okay.
But I thought we were going to talk about before you.
Okay, before.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Before
So what was it like for you before? And then be transparent about your own.
Well, so I think that we have to go way back. So it didn't make it any better that I had ADHD, and there was a lot of things that I just could not accomplish on my own. Or at least I thought I couldn't. I hadn't figured out how to accomplish certain things on my own, and so that's where that really was like
rooted in.
Yeah. So
and the anxiety.
Yes, the anxiety came from not feeling capable to organize my own life. So she did it. Doctor's appointments, anytime I was doing anything paperwork related or adult related, insurance, taxes, like anything like that. She did it or arranged it or told me, okay, do this, call this person, whatever. So yeah, that's kind of how it was. And it didn't start to become an issue for me because I'm on the receiving end. I'm the one being enabled, right? So it didn't start to become an issue until now I'm an adult and now I'm trying to establish myself and I'm thinking about life outside of living in my parents' home and what that's going to look like and having to prepare for that, and that's all coming to the surface now. I remember even like a couple years ago, I was at the doctor and the doctor was asking me questions and I was just responding with, I don't know, like my mom, I have to ask my mom, and he's like, you're 24. Why don't you know these questions for yourself? And was like challenging that. And I wasn't trying to hear it at the time. I came home like, can you believe that he would challenge our relationship like this? And now I get it now. Yeah.
So how do you feel now that she's more aware of her behaviors as it relates to you? How does that make you feel?
It's a bittersweet thing, right? Because selfishly, I want her to do everything for me, right? But in my adult mind, I understand that I also want a life for myself outside of my mom's
making decisions.
Yeah, making decisions. Yeah,
because you relied very heavily on me being able to make decisions for you, and and if you thought something, you had to run it by me, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with.
Right.
To a degree.
To a degree.
Yeah. Right. But I would call her in the grocery store, like, should I get this bread or that bread? Like that type of dependence. So I think I'm just coming to an understanding. I can't have both. I can't have my own separate life and be fully dependent on my mother.
Absolutely.
Right. And for me to pull back, this is one thing, Dr. Angel. It really takes intention in the pullback. But you also have to be willing to see things fall, to see things not get accomplished, and be okay with, when they make the decision to do it. So she mentioned taxes, right? So I said, here's the number. I didn't call the guy for her like I did in the past. Actually, in the past, I just got her information. She didn't even know what happened. I did the taxes on TurboTax and it was done, right? But this last year, I gave her the number and I said, call him. And I asked maybe once or twice, did you call? She said no. I backed up.
Taxes didn't get done. Still to this day. From last year.
And that was her decision.
And that's her decision.
Yeah.
And I have to
be okay with
that. And whatever ramifications come of that, I have to let her
absolutely
deal with that.
Absolutely.
And that's the part why parents try to control it all, because when the consequence comes,
you don't want
you don't want to see your loved one have to go through. It depends on how big the consequence is.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to see them have to experience these consequences.
Right.
And so people say to me, "No, if they make that choice, then I'm going to have to come and clean up. I'm going to have to come and bail them out. I'm going to have to come." But no, if the conversation is established that if this is going to be the choice or the route or the road that you take, then you're going to take the whole road.
Right.
And I'm not going to be there. But that's hard. You have to be ready for that. You have to know in your own heart and mind that I'm definitely not going to step in. I'm definitely not going to pick up the pieces. But that takes a readiness. Yeah.
It does.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't my challenge, so. No, it just wasn't. I just, on the flip side, I came from a home where my brothers, my mother practically did everything for my brothers, and so I saw that. So you either have one road or you go the other road.
And you could
go down the same road,
mm-hmm.
and I could be that mom to my son that did everything for him, or I could be that mom that said, you know what, you can do this.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me and my children, early on, I was teaching them how to make the appointments. I was teaching them, when they initially, like, for example, when they initially went to college, mm-hmm. those are things, that's new territory. So I did help them. However, as we went on, I'm like, okay, you need to reach out. You need to do this. This needs to be done just so that I can pull back. But so that wasn't my story.
Right.
But I had my other codependent story. So, yeah.
And that was my story with her, not so much with Kevin,
right.
and not as much with Karan, more when he was younger in grade school and me trying to manage school and all that, but not as an adult.
Right.
Yeah. But for me, the control thing, it was real, and I think for me it came out of childhood, and part of that control was wanting things to be perfect. And I thought that if I could make the decision in my head, it seemed like it was going to be the perfect decision.
Right.
And it would yield the perfect outcome. And a lot of that perfection was rooted in my mom. She had that, oh my gosh, I'm going to go crazy if you don't. And if it doesn't come out like this, what will happen? That
people will look at
or
me.
People will look, all
part.
of that. Or, and those of you, my sister doesn't like for me to put her stuff out there, so I'm not going to give a whole lot of details, but she was the adventurous one that tried a lot of things, I should say. And so me being 4 years younger, I got the, don't be like your sister and you're going to make me have a heart attack. She was way dramatic. People don't know that part about my mom. She was way dramatic. So I decided, in front of her at least, I was going to be as compliant as I could, because I did some things obviously behind her back. But if she said be in the house at 11, I was going to please her and be in the house at 10:58.
So that people pleases.
So that pleasing started very young.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so in my codependency and in the people pleasing part, it's like, oh, I want to, they don't, they can't do any better for themselves.
Right.
Oh, let me, And I don't want them to see me as one that won't come and help them. I don't want them to see me as one that will just leave them and drop them. Yeah. So that's my transparency right there. And then it kind of like just from family to work to church, which is a was a big part of my life. Raised in the church from 4 years old, and worked very diligently in lots of different ministries, and realized in my healing journey that I was also codependent with the church.
Mm. You don't hear that one too often, so.
Because people are not
Elaborate.
people are not going to admit it, or even that seems is it sacrilegious? Would that be a word? Like, it seems so anti-Christian
Yeah.
to say that you could potentially be codependent with the church.
Well, that's my truth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
that's where
I found that I was most codependent, was being in the church, by overcommitting myself in the name of the Lord, helping people, dragging them, that dragging piece, dragging people, staying too long with people, trying to help people get, experience the healing, all in the name of the Lord.
And not even knowing if they really wanted to.
And not even knowing if they really were ready. Or wanting to be healed, and just being in a place and then using and scripturalizing it. And so then for me, as I went on my journey with my therapist, I began to look at scriptures, and I began to find how Jesus was Jesus, and how he was so on point with how he met the people's needs. And so I often shared with you the story about the man at the pool of Bethesda who would get brought there every year when the waters got trouble, and wait for people and ask and beg people to put him in. And Jesus said one thing to him.
Yep. Do you want
He didn't say, all right, we're going to work this out for 3 months. We're going to have about 5 altar calls. We're going to do some overnight praying. None of that. He said one thing to the man. He said one statement to the man. Do you want to be made whole?
So are you ready to cooperate? So are you ready to do something yourself?
Absolutely.
Are you ready to try to put yourself in this water?
Absolutely.
Right.
And for me, that was groundbreaking. Because then I began to open my eyes like, okay, we say we are Christians and we say we want to be Christ-like, but yet we're doing way too much that Jesus should be doing, number one. And number two, Jesus touched the woman with the issue of blood, and she was made whole.
He didn't
because she wanted it.
Yeah.
She wanted to be made whole. He told the man to pick up your bed and walk. He wanted it. And I think for me, having been in the church as long as I have been, I found myself, and in all fairness, I'm not saying it's wrong, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't help people in ministry and that you shouldn't go alongside them. However, you got to know where your place ends and where Christ's place begins. Now, it's supposed to begin at the beginning, but he also tells us it's good to have an arm of flesh to lean on. However, we stay too long.
And then in the staying too long, you put yourself in the position of getting frustrated.
Absolutely.
And then you're like,
burnt out.
Like, I started this with good intentions.
Right. And now I'm
frustrated. I'm tired. I don't want, look, you either want or you don't, but we get, we get very negative about it because we stayed too long.
And then, go ahead, I'm sorry.
And you start to create that, like, if we think about this in the same way that we think about regular codependent relationships, you start to create that dynamic where you're enabling, they're expecting, you're enabling, they're expecting,
Absolutely.
and then you really kind of are doing the opposite of what you want them to do, which is see Jesus on their own, which is come to Jesus on their own, and instead it's you.
Yeah.
So I mean, and again, this is not for you to take back and say, oh, well, I shouldn't be doing this and I shouldn't be doing that. I think it's important for you to know your boundaries
and know when to step back. And the
when
other
to
thing
step
is,
back.
like you said, blocking people from seeing Jesus. But there are some things that Jesus never told us to go in
That part.
and help people with, because he wanted to be that to them. He wanted to have them grow their faith and not necessarily depend on someone else to
Absolutely
make it happen,
right.
you know, for them. But it's not just the people, it's the showing up every single time the doors open, leaving your family behind.
Yeah.
Because this is what a good Christian
That's
does.
what a good Christian does.
And it wasn't until I stepped back, because I had the expectation that people would show up, because as a pastor, you need the people to show up.
Right.
But at some point, we have to process people have lives. The pastor has a life, but a lot of pastors have found their identity in the call, which is codependent. It leads to codependence, because they don't know how to pull back. I have to do this. This is what God called me to do. I have to, be there for the people. I have to,
go alongside
them and bear their burdens and all of that.
All of that.
To the extent where many leaders don't even know that they are in danger zone with their own health, their own emotional health. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. It's real. This is not something that we ourselves haven't experienced. And the goal of you sharing your story and your journey is not to bring any negativity, but to bring awareness.
Yeah.
And I think for us as a community, as a culture, we shy away from these type of conversations because we don't want to be offensive, or we don't want to go against what the norm has been set. But the reality is if we don't educate ourselves about good behaviors and promoting good behaviors and healthy boundaries, and then if we don't acknowledge those negative behaviors that lead us down a road of despair, then how do we overcome?
Right. For me, I'm so excited about how I feel now.
Yeah.
I'm so excited about this freedom, and I have labored with people who I know are still bound.
Yeah.
I just want people to be free. A lot of times people don't know what freedom feels like because they've never experienced it, right? So I just want, if people could look at me and say, wow, she looks like, she's, really free. I just want to share that. It's just like me wanting to share salvation.
Absolutely.
I'm excited about my salvation. I'm excited about what Jesus has done for me. I'm excited about this freedom.
Yeah.
And I want other people to experience it. I want other people to experience life, because God gave us his works and he gave us himself. He gave us his word. But most often, well, for me anyway, I didn't get to enjoy the works. I didn't get to enjoy all of
the balanced life.
Yes, and all that he has provided for us to just enjoy life, enjoy our family, enjoy culture, enjoy all of that comes from him.
All of it.
Yeah. So if you have any questions, you can definitely. Hey, Elaine. Hey, Wash. Natalie. Thanks for joining.
Dr. Angel's question: how do you shift?
So yes, so we did start that, but I did want to share a little bit more. I guess that would come with some of the tips that we would offer. Do you have something that you wanted to share in the shift? Okay, so I'll answer. I have this statement here to quote, and it's it says detaching with love. Detaching means stepping back from obsessively worrying about others, telling others what to do, and rescuing. When we detach, we let others be responsible for their own choices, and we don't interfere or try to protect them from any negative consequences that may result. And so for me, it was an everyday decision, that I'm gonna focus on me and not be so engulfed in my family's issues or my family's choices and decisions and things that they had to do to navigate their own life. It took intentionality because I was so accustomed to do it. It was like second nature.
Right.
So if I see something, it's like, well, you should do this. And the other thing that I did, and the reason why I know I'm deliberate, is because when they didn't do what I thought that they should do, then I would kind of like pull back and do this kind of like silent thing and let them know that I wasn't pleased with them not doing that.
That's
true,
good.
right?
That's real good.
I'm really being
You
transparent,
are,
right?
You are. Because back in the day, we could point something like that out. She'd be like, I don't know what you're talking about. She's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Well, yeah, I don't like what you did. But why are you giving us the cold shoulder?
Right. And so now I still don't like some of the things that they do and some of the choices and decisions that they make. But I still love them. Absolutely. I'm still their mom. And whatever the consequences are, I will pray for them. I am still working on, because I haven't gotten to the place where there's something really, really big and significant that I would have to say, you made that decision, not yet.
Right.
Not to the extent where I felt like, oh my gosh, help me, Jesus, not to step in, So I can't really say yet. Right. And that's part of this healing process. So your mind gets free. First you become aware. Dr. Angel, tonight is awareness. But then there's the putting in place, okay, now I'm aware, now I have to do something different. Okay, the next time I see something, and this is something that, of course, your children are a little younger, Dr. Angel, but this, or your husband, he's not young, but anyway, it's something that you can say, okay, let me just pull back. This is not my concern. It's not my responsibility. And you just have to be, okay with that, okay with the outcome. But it's a lot of self-talk. Yeah. And it's a lot of training. People use the word, I tried and it didn't work. You have to train for a change in mindset and a change in behavior, because it doesn't happen overnight. And when you slip, I remember last year, my husband was planning a party, or he was part of the planning. He wasn't planning the party, but he had a role in a party for his dad. And we were like 2 weeks away, and I'm like, when are you going to call people? When are you going to this? When are you going to that? And I found myself going down the list, and I was like, wait a minute. I'm just going to step out of this because I'm being codependent right now. You do that. And whatever way it comes out is fine. So it doesn't happen overnight. But so first you're aware, and then you start, the mindset shift. And then there'll be times that you have slip-ups, but you recognize it. You make the correction. You be open and honest. And then before you know it, it becomes more of a lifestyle.
I would just like to add that that sounds so perfect. It really does.
What do you mean? Which part?
The part of you just become aware, and then you just be intentional, and then, but what happens when you get the pushback?
From the family?
From the family.
Oh, from the people that you
are trying to set these
boundaries
to release.
So yes. Let's speak on that.
Let's talk about that.
Because when you make changes, the people in your life were already accustomed, even when you're codependent, like Kierra said, it was good. I was doing it for her. So she was benefiting from it. So a lot of times people who are codependent, the one on the receiving end, is benefiting. And so when you pull back, you're right. It really isn't easy. But those are conversations that have to be had. I'm working on me. I am working on my boundaries because codependents have very loose boundaries. I'm working, if any, I'm working on my boundaries. I would love for you to do this work with me because it sure makes it easier. Obviously, when you're in a relationship with people, it sure makes it easier. But if they're not, you can't control. And that's what you have to say over and over again. I can't control whether someone else is going to come along with me. I can't control the changes they make in their life. I can only control me. And I have to be okay with the pushback.
It's that part. It's being okay.
And it takes time.
It does.
You may have to go in the room and say, I gotta be okay. I gotta be okay. I gotta be okay. And talk to yourself because I've done stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the being
and
okay.
It's very uncomfortable.
It is uncomfortable because they'll throw back stuff.
But not even so much for them. It is still very uncomfortable for the person going through the journey. Because we've gotten so accustomed in being in those type of behaviors that now I'm shifting myself, and sometimes there are some behaviors that you're like, I don't want to change that behavior, knowing that it's not good.
Right.
But no, I don't. But you got to know that it's for your good, and that you have to push through.
One of the tips here, I say, it says, when you're in the recovery circles like AA or SA or whatever, NA, they say you can only do one recovery at a time, and that's your own.
Wow, that's good.
Mm-hmm. So it's very powerful principle. So
that's big.
Our own journey, reflecting on where we need to be, how we need to grow, because we cannot that took a long time for me to get to. I cannot control anybody.
Yeah.
And I can think I'm controlling, then they go do what they want to do, and I'm bound because I'm watching.
And they're living their life.
Mm-hmm.
They're living their lives, and you left. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And a big piece in the codependent relationships is each person is taking the other's behavior so personally.
Yes.
So if my mother would tell me not to do something, my mother would tell me not to do something, I go do it, now she's hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yes.
That's
what causes the pullback, because I'm hurt, I'm disappointed. I know what I know what the end result of this is gonna be, and then I feel I'm gonna have to be there. It wasn't until I could get to the place where I could say I don't have to be there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Another tip is setting boundaries, which teaches people how to treat you as well.
Right.
My time and my energy are precious. I know that I made myself way too accessible for people. Way too. And I mean, people
probably wasn't deserving of that space.
Yeah, but yeah.
Well, we could say like it wasn't yielding. Like
the
effort put in
wasn't being
not
reciprocated. There was no reciprocity.
Absolutely. Not yielding the results that it should have been.
Yeah. And you just can't be there for everybody. And I thought that I could be there for everybody. I could give a word here and give you a word here and text you here and text you there. But then the text messages come back, and then you got to carve out the time, and everybody believes that their issue is priority. And so then you realize, like, okay, can I even carve out all of this time? And did God even tell me to meet this one's need, that one's need, this one's need, that one's need? Could I have directed them someplace else? Not just drop them, but say, hey, I know a good therapist, but not me today. I know a good practice that you could go to.
How about that?
Yeah. So, tips for overcoming codependency: seek fulfillment in things you enjoy as an individual.
Yeah.
Codependent people usually have a hard time doing things on their own and even thinking about what they like. It took me a long time to even think about what I liked, because my life was the church, my work, and my family. I didn't know what I liked beyond that. And I'm not saying that everybody in church, that this happens to everybody.
We're
but
not.
This is my story.
Yeah,
my
absolutely.
story. My story. My healing journey. And I know that I'm not the only one. And then relaxing my own expectations. That was really a big one. Because, we have
some often unrealistic.
Right.
We often have unrealistic expectations for people that they don't even have for themselves.
Yeah.
But that's, again, rooted in codependency.
All right, Dr. Angel. We're on our time, but we had a little bit of a glitch. But anyway, what if it is a part of your personality that's hard to say no or want to help? So
Well, I mean, I can relate. I'm a giving person. I am a person that loves to support. I am a person that loves to give. That's just my nature. However, again, having boundaries, knowing what's good. If a relationship, like you just mentioned, if there's no reciprocity in that relationship, you have to take a step back. Just because you want to continue to give, if you're not receiving, my therapist said to me, so you give and you give and you give. Be honest with yourself. How much have you really received? And I had to take a hard look at how much I've given and how much I had received, and it was the scale wasn't balanced. So I think it's important for you to know, there's nothing wrong with you giving. That's what we're called to do, right? We're called to give, but knowing what we're giving, number one.
How much we're giving.
How much
do we have the capacity at the time to give?
Do we have the capacity? And have we counted the cost? That's my new thought. Have you counted the cost of your decision?
Yeah.
So
it's not a matter of never saying yes, because obviously we are meant to give, and I enjoy giving, but just knowing when to say no.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
if that's part of your personality that you don't know,
that comes with discernment. Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And if it's part of your personality that you struggle saying no, then that's a part of it. We all have parts of our personality, and it's one of my shows that I'm going to. It's called Wired That Way. But anyway, there are parts of our personality that we need to work on.
Absolutely.
That don't make for good for us and good healthy
Absolutely.
living. So not being able to say no is definitely something, if that's part of your personality, that you definitely want to work on, or you're going to be burnt out.
Absolutely.
Or you're going to end up saying yes to things
that you're overcommitting.
Yep. Yeah. And yes, so the reciprocity, you may not always get reciprocity from someone you're called to help that's not necessarily within your circle. But if you have a friendship, or if you husband and wife, children, there should be definitely
absolutely
reciprocity.
Absolutely. And that goes to me, our relationship. It's so interesting how our relationship has evolved, but there is reciprocity with us. We're able to be transparent with each other. We pour into each other. There are times where we are just being and sharing and but it goes both ways.
Yeah. And then there are times that you may need more than you can give in the moment, or I may need more depending on the season or whatever it is that has taken place. So nothing is going to be, 50-50.
Right.
But we give, and we don't feel like
our relationship is not drained.
Like
it's not a
drained.
Yes. Yeah. And that's important, because if you feel like you're in a relationship and you feel like it's challenging for you to be in that relationship, you gotta ask yourself, why am I in this relationship? Because relationships shouldn't be strained. They shouldn't be frustrating. They shouldn't be where you're constantly feeling like, oh gosh, he's calling me now, or he's calling me now.
Well, we'll talk about that next week.
Oh, okay.
Next week, the topic is tested, and it's in reference to friendships and relationships and how you don't really know what you have. And I have to give kudos to my son Kevin because we were in conversation and just talking about different relationships that have fallen by the wayside. And he made the statement, you don't really know what you have in relationship until it's tested. And you can go a lot of years without having it tested, right? And then that's when, like, when it gets tested and you realize you didn't have what you really thought you had. But we're going to talk about it next week, so I ain't going to go into all of it tonight. Yeah. But you want to definitely come back, come back next week because that's going to be a good one too. So thank you so much for joining us. I can't sign off until I let you know that part of this healing journey for me, during my journey, I wrote a journal, Set Your Body Free, Mind, Body, and Spirit, and it is a journal to freedom. And if I must say so myself, it is, it's just the way it's broken down. You have the ability to process your thoughts, to jot down how you're feeling. There's scripture in here, so it is Christian based. There's scripture that helps you to process what's going on in your mind, and then there's the body part where you kind of process how you are managing your temple, and then your spirit, how you're connecting, with God. There's some affirmations in here, mental health tips, mind tips, live well, prayers, lots of space for you to journal, and then an evening reflection. You can go to my website at drdanita.com and purchase this journal. You won't be disappointed. Thank you so much, ladies. I am so proud of this one here that I am going to call baby girl. She wants me to live until I'm 115, which means she will be 80s, in your 80s. Mm-hmm. And she'll still be my baby girl.
Absolutely. They never stop.
You won't.
Yeah.
You'll be okay with me. Are you okay with me saying baby girl?
Yes, as long as you don't treat me like a baby.
Okay, and so we got that.
Yeah,
okay.
We're there.
All right, we're there. So they corroborated this part of my story, that I am healing from codependency and growing in ways that I never thought that I needed to grow. But I'm so excited on this side, looking back on that side.
Absolutely.
It feels good. So good night, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us. Go ahead and also like and share, because now that you have seen the episode, you know that there will be other people that need to be able to hear this content and get themselves set free in that area of codependency.
Amen.
All right. Have a good night.